I think this march will go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, demonstrations for freedom and human dignity ever held in the United States.
It's important for us to be a part of it, and representation matters.
It's a small price to pay to be able to put down in stone the good deeds of people in the past so that people in the future can learn from it.
We're all human, just like Martin Luther King Jr. was, so we're all capable of greatness.
Civil rights, slavery, justice, discrimination, invention, math, science, sports, Ferguson, Martin Luther King Jr., Charleston, the first black president, the Crown Act, hope, tragedy, triumph. All these things and so many more revealing what it means to be black in America. And this month, we're taking a moment, 30 minutes with this special, to highlight the impact of black history right here in the Capital Region, the past, the present, and the future, showing where we've once been to get a glimpse of where we're headed. We begin tonight with stopping segregation. That's the goal of a group of people living in Middleburg. After discovering a section of their cemetery they're labeled as the colored section and poorly maintained, they decided to form a committee to do something to change that. A walk through the Middleburg Cemetery is a walk through time, a walk through tragedies, triumphs, and stories untold for centuries.
Up until now, they've been largely invisible.
For Rayma Obi, she enjoyed walking through the area for the scenic views. That is until she came across this sign, the colored section, dedicated to the black burial grounds at the cemetery.
I want to live in a community where when people visit the local cemetery, it doesn't at first glance appear like it's still segregated.
The area was also overgrown and had not been properly maintained for years. She reached out to the village historian and the acting mayor for help.
It has the person's name, the date of death, age, where they died.
Through their research, they found that this section of the cemetery was in fact home to dozens of unmarked graves, which held the remains of black people dating back to the 1700s, including those born into slavery, and some like Jeremiah Van Zant and John Van Slyke that fought against slavery in the Civil War. It took village historian Steve Lamont nearly a year of research to identify some of the names and stories that lie here.
They were part of the community. You know, they worked, they lived here and they worked like everybody else. And, you know, they deserve to be recognized, you know, the same as everybody in the large cemetery.
And how many people were you able to identify here?
For sure 24. With the magnetometer, they come up with possible 39.
So you're still working to identify more?
And it's ongoing, you know, like I just found another one the other day.
Still, Rayma didn't want to stop with just identifying the people buried here, but also wanted to do a better job of honoring them, which meant that this sign needed to come down. In its place, 2 new signs now stand today. This Section 11 sign, similar to other section signs around the cemetery grounds, and this historical marker sign designed by Rayma herself, who is a graphic designer, dedicated to the men, women, and children buried here, both known and unknown.
There are a lot of people of color that have been lost to history because they weren't the ones writing the history books. And it's really important to consider the impact that they had in building all of these communities. Just pausing to remember that is important, I think.
The funding for the project, around $1,500, covered entirely through funds from the village budget.
If your constituents reach out to you in good faith and they have projects that are going to be important not only to the future, but the past and the present of your community that seeks to either rectify wrongs or to at least institute good measures for showing who you are as a people and who the people were, you should listen to them. It's a small price to pay to be able to put down in stone the good deeds of people in the past so that people in the future can learn from it.
Rayma says she hopes her efforts encourage people in other towns to speak up and take action if they see something that isn't right, and hopes that the next time someone walks through this area, it's a journey met with pride and not prejudice.
We're trying our best to do justice by them.
The group says some of the old headstones were stolen by townspeople to create sidewalks many years ago, making it even harder to identify some of the unmarked graves, but say they will continue their work to identify as many remains as possible. Routine maintenance of the area is also now underway. The committee's research will live on in an online document. You can find a link to that at cbs6albany.com. Now to a Rotterdam farm fighting to save an important piece of their own history and American history. Officials say the brick house on the Maybe farm is on the brink of collapse, in need of the community's help to stay standing. I took a trip out to the farm to find out why it's so critical that their chapter of history lives on. On this quiet farm in Rotterdam sits more than 100 years worth of history. History that for some is painful to recount.
A lot of people don't really associate upstate New York with slavery, but here at the Maybe farm, for over 100 years, there were enslaved people who lived and who were responsible for, kind of making this farm what it was.
Built in the 1760s, the brick house was used to house black slaves who lived at Maybe farm.
You can see that there's a ladder that would have led down to the basement.
It stands as one of the few structures in the state directly linked to the experiences of those enslaved.
Because they didn't leave great written records, or really any written records, the home that they lived in, the building, the physical structure is the most, it's the best way we can kind of tell their story.
While the property owner's extended family lived up here, the slaves lived down below. So now we're stepping into the basement, and down here is where the enslaved people lived. Mary Zawacki with the Schenectady County Historical Society says it was in this small, dark basement where slaves lived and worked on Maybe Farm for many years. Sleeping, eating, existing on these dirt floors with only a makeshift fireplace to cook or keep warm.
At least upstairs you have a wood floor to sleep on. It's not just dirt like this.
And so I would imagine it would get pretty cold down here.
It would definitely get very cold and definitely very damp also. This is not a place that anyone would want to spend an extended period of time.
Mary and the Historical Society, however, spending an extended period of time compiling records for about 13 of the slaves that lived here.
We have Sam, we have Cato, we have Jack, we have a woman named Bate, and we have a child who's just simply listed as child. We do have one story of a young man who did try to self-emancipate in the middle of the night. He took off from the farm, in search of freedom somewhere, and the Maybes put an ad in the newspaper to try to get him back, and we know that he was found and brought back here because we have records of him living here at a later date after that newspaper ad.
However, all of this history, the stories, triumphs, and tragedies of those who lived here are at risk of being erased forever. The brick house is in bad shape and needs a lot of repairs. The Historical Society putting quick fixes in place, but it's not enough. Architects and engineers say it's going to cost more than $70,000 in preservation work to save the building.
What do you hope people can take away from being able to come here and down here to really experience this?
So I think the first part is, educational, understanding that history. Of course, we all want to be aware of that history, but even bigger than that is having empathy. And we also want to make it a little bit easier for visitors to come down here, right? So you saw coming down those stairs was not easy.
Right.
We want people to come down here and see, really what was this home like for those people.
Mary says she would hate to see the doors close on this place permanently and hopes speaking out now will help keep the stories and this house alive.
I think it's really important because it does shed some light on those stories that are very often overlooked.
The Historical Society also says they believe a large Negro cemetery once existed on the property. They are still working to locate that. For more information about the brick house and ways you can help, visit this story on our website. Following the experiences of the slaves on Mabee Farm and across the state all those years ago, Governor Kathy Hochul signing new racial justice legislation to create a commission to consider reparations for slavery. The 9-person committee would examine slavery and discrimination against African Americans and the lingering impacts of it on Black people today. The commission will then recommend reparations to right the wrongs of the past and help those still living in the aftermath of it all. Hochul saying it's time to remove the shackles of the past. New York would be the second state after California to form such a task force. Equality and justice, also important to none other than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The civil rights leader recognized in Albany this month through the highly anticipated play, The Mountaintop, which recounts Dr. King's final moments alive. Written by acclaimed playwright Katori Hall, the play explores themes of legacy and leadership, race and identity, spirituality, and mortality.
America, you're too arrogant.
The Mountaintop reimagines the events of April 3, 1968, the eve of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. Set in the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee, the play offers a fictionalized account of Dr. King's final hours as he grapples with his legacy, mortality, and the weight of his leadership in the civil rights movement. Under the direction of Michael A. Lake, the production promises a fresh interpretation of Hall's work, drawing on innovative staging techniques and powerful performances to bring the narrative to life. From stirring soliloquies to heart-wrenching ensemble scenes, each actor brings depth and nuance to their role, promising to immerse their audience in the emotional journey of the characters.
To us, it was really important that we add to his humanity in a way that both acknowledges his strengths and his weaknesses and the ways that he lived his life. And so I think that it was important for us to attack the work from that angle. So a lot of our early book work was about being honest and about presenting what was on the page and not shying away from it.
Emphasizing its relevance in today's social and political climate, though written in the last 25 years with modern inclinations and ideas, Lake says the benefit is in seeing how much has changed.
But then we have the added benefit of those 20 or so years where we get to examine how far we've come since the end, since that point in time. And so I think it's really important, especially with the political climate, the way it was in the late 20-teens, the way it is now, internationally, that we highlight all of the things that he stood for, and not only his fight for civil rights, but his fight as an anti-war activist, and his fight for the disenfranchised and the poor. While America is going to hell.
Annie Bossy Nelson plays Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and invites the audience to embark on a journey of empathy.
If there's anything that you can take away from this production or even this interview, just leaning into love and leaning into being the best person that you can possibly be. Because if you do that, then you can be able to spread it and share it to the world and however it works best for you.
I heard you carried on a storm up at Mason Temple.
Angelique Powell, who plays Kamei in the play, hopes people can reflect on the journey of transformation.
We're all human. We are all human beings, and not so much in the sense that, yes, we do all make mistakes, so we should have more grace with each other, but also we're all human, just like Martin Luther King Jr. was, so we're all capable of greatness.
Through the lens of Dr. King's The Mountaintop challenges the ongoing fight for justice and equality. We have much more to share from Honoring Black History, the special. Up next, how Capital Region researchers are working to solve a major health crisis that's killing Black expectant mothers at alarming rates. And a dynamic performance from the first professional stepping company. We explore the rich history of stepping. And here's a Black History Month fun fact. Did you know that George Grant is the inventor of the wooden golf tee? Taking a look at a Black History Month fun fact, John Love is the inventor of the pencil sharpener. According to the CDC, Black women of all backgrounds are 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women, with many saying they often feel silenced or ignored by healthcare providers during their pregnancy journey. Governor Hochul calling the issue a crisis. Experts believe implicit bias is one of the main reasons for this. Albany researchers recently awarded a $3 million grant to study the issue. They'll spend the next few years collecting data, including home visits with expecting and new mothers, while also using home care kits that include a blood pressure machine, body monitoring devices, and other essentials in hopes of finding answers. Strides also being made in the Black community when it comes to careers in STEM. Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute hosting a Black Families Technology Awareness Day this month, aimed at increasing awareness and access to STEM careers within underserved communities.
Sponsored by National Grid, Black Families Technology Awareness Day featured a range of hands-on activities catered to children in grades K through 12 and their families. Workshops exploring simple machines, building balloon cars using recycled materials, the study of astrobotany, and magnitudes of earthquakes were conducted by student organization leaders, faculty members, and alumni.
And we're looking to bring young people onto campus, have them learn about all the exciting things that are part of STEM, that they can learn, whether it be science or engineering. And as the speakers have said today, we need more scientists, we need more engineers. Those are where the jobs are going to be. So you can't wait till high school so the light goes on. We're trying to get the light on in these students earlier.
Miles Fortuno is a second-year electrical engineering major and president of the Caribbean Student Association, the newest club on campus. He says it means the world to be able to participate.
Each year, puts a smile on my face to be able to talk to some kids, see where I was at just a little while ago, learning more about engineering and developing my love for building, designing, and creating an impact in the world. So being able to just talk back to these kids, give advice, help them through stuff.
To me, it just means exposure to what people can truly do and the ideas of what we can learn and really do as a community. And just seeing everybody come together and showing these young kids what they can one day become and maybe they didn't see before.
Local businesses and organizations partnered with the college to provide information and resources on the importance of technological literacy in today's society, leaving a lasting impact on participants.
My biggest thing is it's important for us to develop beyond where we are, and STEM is the gateway. So it's important for us to be a part of it, and representation matters. It's important for us to be at the table to make these decisions so that we can help to move and propel the world. So bring your kids in.
Amina's daughter, Renee, was just one of thousands of kids there with big dreams and aspirations who left with even bigger hopes for her future.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
An astronaut.
Fighting racism through food. That's the goal of a community farm in Rensselaer County. They say it's a growing issue here in New York and across the country. But now, thanks to a new grant, they have even more resources to fight it. Soulfire Farm reaching more than 50,000 people each year through their food justice workshops, doorstep harvest delivery for households in need, and farmer training for Black and brown growers. The farm recently receiving a $250,000 grant to continue their efforts of tackling food deserts in urban communities, education, and connection.
Personally, working in an office setting, I'm not usually using my hands unless it's typing. So to kind of be in the field, and really just kind of doing the things that my ancestors did, I think that's something that's really beneficial and influential.
Volunteers travel from all across the state year-round to take part in the farm's programs. Step Africa, the first professional stepping company, wowing a Capital Region audience with their latest performance. The performance held at Proctor's Theater featured a dynamic fusion of traditional African dance, intricate footwork, and powerful chants, showcasing the rich history of stepping and the company's commitment to promoting stepping as an educational tool.
I think one of the biggest goals is the interaction, is the community feel that stepping literally brings to a room. So I think that's one of the first steps we try to make sure the audience understands, is that you're going to be a part of this experience.
Celebrating their 30th anniversary, Step Africa is the first dance company to be inducted into the National Association of Campus Activities. And I was actually on a step team in school, and I have to say it's a great workout and a lot of fun. So what an incredible performance there. Well, still to come after the break, we highlight a woman who says the key to growth in life begins with your education. Up next, the impact this education advocate is making on the Capital Region. And taking a look at another fun fact, Marie Van Britten is the inventor of the home security system. A great invention there. Our final Black History Month fun fact, Judy Reed is the inventor of the Dough Kneader and Roller. Welcome back. In the heart of Albany, a groundbreaking initiative shedding new light on the often overlooked narratives of Black history. The Albany Institute of History and Art embarking on a mission to uncover, preserve, and share the rich heritage of African Americans in the region. Led by public historian Lacey Wilson, the Albany African American History Project aims to document oral histories, unearth archival materials, and create educational resources that illuminate the experiences and contributions of African Americans throughout Albany's history.
I think sometimes we think about Black History Month and we think about a lot of major national people, but being able to open that up to anyone in the community who made a difference and the kid would want to be inspired by.
One person made that difference for Wilson. Nell Stokes, an education advocate. Far from home, Stokes moved from Montgomery, Alabama to the Capital Region in 1963 in hopes of finding a community suitable to raise her 6 children. Once running as an independent candidate for the City of Albany School Board in 1976, education was a top priority for Stokes.
What's your thoughts on that and parent involvement in their child's education?
Back in the day, I was not really satisfied with the type of education they were receiving, and I thought that if I was a part of the school board, I could be an influence on whatever was going on there. You have to take time to make sure that your kids are learning what they need to learn, and that you are part of the access that they have to the school system. I remember when my kids went to school, I was sort of on the first name basis with the teachers because I was always there asking questions and finding out what was going on.
This was just the beginning for Stokes. She went on to create the famous Black American Essay Contest, in which students were challenged to think critically about Black art and history. Students were tasked with writing about the past and present contributions for Black Americans. Essays judged by Capital Region mayors for every day in February. There was a new winner. Each winner had the chance to present their essays on air at one of 3 local news stations. As our special comes to a close, we've highlighted how honoring the past allows us to continue shaping the future for the better. And to wrap up what that future might encompass, I leave you with this quote from Maya Angelou. "Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. Still, I rise."